Today, let's talk about death. It's the best moment to do that because we are still alive in this human form. Otherwise, you might not be able to hear this message right now. We do not really know if we can talk about death after it happens. Discussing it might only be possible for those who believe that we do not die, but transition into something else. Something quite different from our usual human form. This conversation is only possible for those who choose to believe this to be true. You might have heard from those who have had a near-death experience, or short NDE. These individuals have faced death and returned to tell their stories. They are not extraordinary figures like Jesus, but ordinary people who have had accidents, illnesses, or other life circumstances that allowed them a glimpse of the other side. When I say the other side, I mean the state of being dead, or not alive as a human. However, in my humble opinion, there is no other side. We have been and will be for eternity on the same side. It's just a matter of learning about our true nature. All of this might sound strange to you, but I invite you to reflect on it. I recommend being open-minded so you can learn about the mystery of death. Just keep breathing and allow your mind to explore the perspectives offered, broadening your understanding of the act of dying. Many people fear death, and this is absolutely normal. If anyone is placed in a situation threatening their life, they will react with utmost force to avoid it. This instinct is ingrained in our human nature, protecting us from dying before our time to transition. If we leave this human form before learning the lessons we came for, it would be a wasted opportunity. So it makes sense that we strive to stay alive. Realize that our life is fragile. It can end at any moment. Something as small as a bacterium can end our lives in a flash. Majestic events like earthquakes and floods can also shorten our lifetimes unexpectedly. There are countless ways to die, making it a miracle that we are still alive. Look at your own life and those around you. You might discover many stories of close calls with death, experiences that brought people face to face with their mortality. I cannot tell you that you can avoid the death of your human existence. Most likely you will have to leave this body behind. But when you examine this event closely, it is only your body, your stories, that will be left behind. Let's look at an analogy. Imagine you are using a car to move from one place to another. Would you fear the idea of leaving the car behind when it breaks down? Would you dread the moment you reach your destination and must let go of the vehicle? You used to travel from point A to point B. Even if you loved that car, there may come a time when you must part with it because time has worn it down. So, is this the end of your existence? Did you die when you left your vehicle for the junkyard or replaced it with a newer model? You can answer that question for yourself. If you find the answer, you might understand that your human form is merely a vehicle. There's a cycle of renewal. Being human serves as a purpose. When that purpose is fulfilled, you can leave your human form behind. I hear someone protesting. No, I do not want my body to die, it's me. I understand your feelings. Let me share some scientific evidence you might have overlooked. On average, the entire body is replaced with new cells every 7 to 10 years. In conclusion, the concept of the human body being replaced every 7 years is supported by scientific understanding. While the exact time frame may vary, the overall process of cellular renewal is essential for maintaining our bodies. So I can confirm that an 11-year-old hearing this is not the same physical being that existed 11 years ago. You have been replaced. The vehicle of your human form has been renewed without your awareness. Can we say you have died at least once? If your mind is racing, relax. It's not that dramatic. It happens all the time. Now, let's turn to our title. What does death mean from a scientific standpoint? Death occurs when your body's biological functions cease. That is when you stop breathing, eating, and moving. But does your mind stop? Does your awareness cease? Does your consciousness end? These questions cannot be answered lightly, even from a materialistic perspective. Numerous near-death experiencers share their personal perspectives, recalling dialogues and visual information that should not be possible for someone who is clinically dead. If you question this, I encourage you to do your own research. In essence, when you die, something remains alive beyond this dreadful event. Is it our mind, our soul, or perhaps we experience these moments because some electrical current still runs through our brains? We might be able to draw conclusions from our experiences when we die. But how can we communicate these insights if we are dead? That's a dilemma. Fortunately, that is not our reality right now. We are still alive. Thank God. Let's consider what is left behind when someone dies. There is a corpse. These human remains of material existence. But something unusual has occurred. That same corpse was alive just moments before the unfortunate event. Perhaps only minutes ago it was animated, capable of speaking its last words before this tremendous change. What is that? What is it what made the corpse speak? What allowed it to move, feel, taste, touch, smell, hear, and see throughout its life before this transformation into an unanimated mass of flesh? Something left that human form and went somewhere else. Is that something the mind, the personal memory, the soul? Is that now dead too? I invite you to investigate what that non-material part of the human experience truly is. It must be crucial, especially for those who have been clinically dead and returned to life. These individuals are very much alive. They were dead and then came back, perhaps with scars from the experience, but they have stories to tell, stories that are quite fascinating. If we ignore all of this and accept that there is a final event in life where everything ends for the individual, one question remains. Why do some people choose to live in fear of death? What benefit is there in fearing an event that only happens once in a lifetime? Why should we live in fear every day of something that can occur in a moment, yet is believed to happen only once? The underlying question is, why are we afraid of death? Let's set aside death for a moment. We discover the real enemy, fear. It creeps into our minds when we remember our finite situation. Two main components make this fear seem reasonable. First, we do not know the exact moment of our death. It can happen any time. Second, we dislike the suffering associated with the idea of dying. You might agree with this analysis if I promise you that you could die at 108 peacefully in your sleep. Would that erase your fear of death? Sorry, I'm afraid I cannot make that promise. Returning to our fearful reality, some cope with this fear through religious beliefs. Concepts of an afterlife and expectations of a good life based on alignment with spiritual teachings can provide comfort. This is not a bad choice. Personally, I encourage you to explore these teachings. It's a better use of time than merely seeking pleasure in life. Those who only seek pleasure often ignore the reality of death. They do not consider it because they are unaware of their mortality. Waking up to the reality of death can be painful and frightening, especially when faced with it directly. As a listener, you have the opportunity to confront death. You learn to die today. This can be a liberating experience. If you can intellectually explore the dilemma of death, it can help minimize the discomfort associated with it. Recognize your familiarity with death in daily life. Each night you go to sleep, not fearing that you might not wake up. We relax and drift into dreams where everything feels as real as being awake, even though we do not control what happens. Then there is a void where we are deeply asleep. This experience might be quite similar to this, don't you think? If we generalize this experience, we can describe it as having a beginning and an end. We wake up, we are awake, then we go to sleep. Our awareness dies in that moment, game over. Next day, we start again. The same applies to material things. We buy a toaster. It comes into existence when built. We use it for many days, then one day it breaks. It dies. We might try to fix it, but ultimately it is dead. Another example, we have a great idea. We think it's the best idea ever. We talk about it, try to convince others, and follow up on it. Eventually, that idea may change, or we may abandon it altogether. That initial idea is dead. What these experiences share is the impermanence of existence. Existence does not disappear. It merely changes form. The impermanence of our human form is called death, but our corpse after death still exists. We may choose to burn it or bury it, but it does not vanish. It transforms into something else. Let's slow down and focus on the less obvious aspect of these phenomena. We, as observers, experience these events through our consciousness and awareness. So death is not really a thing. It's a human invention, a judgment over the unavoidable impermanence of material things transitioning from one form to another. The truly important question is not so much about death, but about who we really are beyond this event called death. Ask yourself, who am I? If you can answer that question for yourself, I would love to hear your thoughts.